Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Without podcast. Today, I have another great guest, my good friend, Mieu. Did I say your name correctly? Mieu?
Yes, yes,
All right.
thank you.
Very welcome. I wasn't sure, so I just want to make sure. So, Mieu is, we connected once again to one of my favorite communities in the world online, the Serving Circle, with a great chat last week. And when I heard the story, I said, well, she needs to be on the podcast because she has a powerful story and all that. So she grew up in Ottawa, Canada, and then now she's in San Diego. She has a quite interesting path. She worked for a while. You know, she has a background in computer science, and then in the financial worlds, had funds, stocks, and she's been using tech to spot human trends. And now she's working, following her heart, and helping people grow the Facebook groups and working with heart-centered clients, former executive producers, divorce mediators, health coaches, parenting coaches, helping them overcome whatever challenges they have in front of them and just pursue their dreams and follow their hearts. So we're going to dive deep into that. And she has a wonderful tagline, which is "Let's rise together," quite similar to one of mine, which is and helping others, we all rise. So quite similar. So
Mm.
Mieu, welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Pleasure's all mine. So we're gonna unpack all of that. But before we start, as I told you when we had a chat last week, I like to have a heart-to-heart conversation. I like to look into the hood, so to speak, to see what's in your heart, to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Hence the name Leader with a Heart. Are you ready?
Okay, sounds like a deep dive. Yes,
All
I
right.
am.
We're gonna go slowly. We're gonna go slowly first. All right. Or maybe we're gonna go first very deep, and then we're gonna try to back up. Because the
Okay,
first
sure.
question are gonna be the question I ask is the one that people have the hardest time because it's about themselves. So first of all,
Mhm.
it's not the hardest. It's just that people usually don't ask us really about us, about deep down what we are. So first of all, tell us, for people who don't know you, who's Mieu as a person, as a human being? We're gonna talk about your business after, but first, as a human being, as a person, who's Mieu?
Wow. I had talked to you before, just a little bit before we came online. And I grew up in Ottawa, but before that, I actually was born in Cambodia. And so anybody who have know a little bit of Cambodia, know the tragic history in that country. So I've gone through those tragic events and moved to Canada when I was close to 6 years old. Went to school in Canada and decided to explore the world and make the world my oyster. So my first job was at a hedge fund company. I'm a software engineer by training, and then I became a computer consultant afterwards. And we decided to move around the world a little bit. So we moved to India, and now we're in the States, and would love to move to other countries. But right now we have kids, and we like to make their environment as stable as possible. So we're going to remain here in the States until they're out of the house, and we're going to move to other countries.
Well,
That's who I am.
we have quite a lot in common because just like you, I also originally was born in a country that was devastated by war. I was born in Afghanistan.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so my, you know, I was young and I was, fortunately, I was too young to understand what was going on. I was 3 years old in the early 80s when the Soviet invaded. My father was working, he was one of the first people out of Afghanistan to get a full scholarship to go study in France. He was a geologist, archaeologist. So in the early 80s when the Soviet invaded, communists, they don't like, intellectuals. They were looking and rounding up all intellectuals, make them disappear and make them shoot them. So thankfully at the time, my father was in France and that was our opportunity to literally save our lives. So, and the rest is history. And just like you, I traveled a lot. So we had a lot to unpack. So that's good. So now, tell us,
Mhm.
what makes you happy as a person?
Oh, I just love the discovery of things. There's just I just love experiencing experiences, new things. Like that's why I love going to different countries and experience the culture and live there, not vacation, but to actually live there. And there's something magical moment of just trying new dishes where it's
Oh,
just
yes.
a new sensation. It just like sparks just, well, I don't know, what do you, it just feels good.
You know, the cuisine is one of the best ways to really immerse yourself in the culture. And just like you, I
Yeah.
lived in many countries around the world. And one of the first thing I go, you know, I never stay in resorts. I've traveled a lot, but I've never stayed in a resort because I don't travel to stay in a resort and eat the same food I eat here with the same people here. When I travel, for me, is to go where the locals are, have a local experience, and just be with the locals. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. So now I'm going to ask you a series of rapid fire questions to better understand you as a person. Ready?
Sure.
All right. So tell us, what makes you smile?
Oh, the sun lately. Lately, it's been the sun.
Oh,
I'm just
yes.
glad it beat on my skin. It's been cold lately in San Diego.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, what makes, let's take the happiness level a couple of notches even higher. What makes your heart come alive? What sets your soul on fire? What makes your heart sing?
Oh, that's a good one. There's so many. Amazing movie where I have to think a lot. Um,
Like,
it's
give us a title,
watching,
an example of such a movie.
well, actually, I'm not watching a movie, but I'm watching, it's just a sad um, storyline. It's Margaret Atwood and it's called The Handmaid's Tale. It's a sad story, but it's just so well written and the storyline's amazing. And I'm always thinking like possibilities afterwards. So I just enjoy that. Another thing is kids, when kids, that joyful watching kids run around and they have that no limiting beliefs. They can just do anything and they just run around with no care in the world. And I just love watching that. It's just, yeah. And
Absolutely.
also food.
Oh, yes, yes. Are you a good cook?
um, I've lost a lot of my skills. I
What
have
cuisine?
kids.
What cuisine do you like cooking most? The Cambodian cuisine, Asian, Fijian, Western,
I
Indian?
it varies. I am a type of person that like change. I do not like to eat the same thing over and over again. However, I have kids, so I don't experiment as much as I want to.
One cuisine I'm very curious about is Cambodian. I haven't been to Cambodia, but I was just talking before going live. Next time I go to Asia, I will go to Cambodia. What would you say is the number one dish in Cambodia?
Uh, it's it's a fish soup.
Okay.
How do you? I have to translate it in my head. It's I can't remember. If my mom says it, the direct translation is soured fish soup.
Okay.
Yeah, that is. And there is something called loc lac, and I don't know what the translation is. And this is from the French.
Say that again
Because
slowly.
tomato, it's called loc lac.
Look like, look like.
So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know what it is, what translation is.
Okay.
It is a stir-fried beef. So it's really tender beef.
Okay.
And
Wow.
then in salt and sugar and pepper and just marinate it. And then it's loaded on a bed of tomato and lettuce. And tomato is actually a new cuisine, a new vegetable in that part of Indochina. So it's got the French influence with the tomato.
Wow. Amazing. Do you speak French?
Not very well.
Okay. Okay. Oh, no worries. Okay.
I grew up
Now,
in France. I mean, I grew up in Ottawa in
okay.
Canada. So I got my bilingual certificate, but I haven't
Yeah.
used French for 20 years. So
Sure. Yeah. Even me, I grew up in France and being here in Canada, I barely use French. I'm losing my French as well. So it's always good to when I meet another francophone. But all right, no, that's fine. Cool. Now, tell us on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
oh shoot. What makes me sad is if people give up. There's so many people out there who have so much potential, and they let fear be in the way. And I just
Yes.
see so much heart and compassion, and they can do so much more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what scares you
What scares me?
other than spiders?
I'm not scared of spiders.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm scared of rats.
Oh, okay.
Those are ugly things. To me, it's rats are so ugly. What scares me is the way the environment is heading towards right now.
Oh, yes. I agree with this. I agree. I see the environment as, as our house. If you don't take care of your house, you don't clean your house, you don't keep it proper, before long, you will have a mess. You won't have a house. Same thing. We only have one planet so far. Maybe in a few hundred years, we'll have another planet. But for now, we only have one house. Just like when you grow up, you have one house. When you become more successful, you have more another house. But for now, it's the one we have. So we have to take good care of it. And I agree with you. I agree.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say is your number one personal superpower?
Perseverance.
Mm. We'll talk about that in a moment because I'm sure you've had your fair share of moments that it was so easy for you to give up, yet you continue. But hold that thought because we're going to talk about that in a moment. Yeah. All right. Now, let's move forward. You mentioned that you love traveling, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the very first trip you took?
That really was a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
It was first time I moved outside of Canada or traveled outside of Canada. I'm not including the States because it's just we're so close. Ottawa
Yeah.
is just
It doesn't really
200
count as a
miles.
travel. You know what I mean?
It's not the same. You can just
Yeah.
it's not the same. I mean, we used to go to the States all the time when I was growing up. I think when I flew on a plane was during my let's see, when I was getting an interview for my first job at a school.
What was
They
that?
flew me to Bermuda,
Oh,
and just
wow.
I know
That's
it
a
was
dream job. Where do I sign?
I know I was so spoiled. This was before the .com, just right before the not Y2K. Remember the Y2K?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was a surreal moment. I thought the world was just like this. They flew me there for my interview to Bermuda, and then I just remember being on a plane, just the plane going down and breaking through the clouds and just seeing this ocean of various shades of blue. And then the plane landed further down, I could see like this island, and then you see these white roofs and then pastel colors, and then we just landed, and it was just like so tropical. That was like, wow. And as a first job in a hedge fund company, paying as well as I did, I thought the world was all like this, which I know is wrong. It's not the case.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. That must have been an amazing experience. Now,
Yeah.
let me take you into another type of traveling down memory line. Go back to when you're a kid growing up. When we're kids, people around us, family, friends, parents, teachers always ask us, Mieu, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer as a young girl?
I wanted to be a secretary.
Really? Why?
I think I was watching WKRP Cincinnati, the show. I don't
Okay.
know. Do you remember that show?
No.
And then it was based, the storyline was around secretaries. I can't remember the blonde woman's name, or what her name was, and Lonnie Anderson, or something. And I just thought, wow, she has so much charisma. And then I realized one day I'm answering to somebody else's call. And I want the world to change differently. So for most of high school, I wanted to be a secretary.
Wow.
I even took typing class and
Nice.
shorthand.
Wow. Amazing. Now, let's stay to when you were kids. What was your relationship with school? Did you love school? Did you hate school?
Um, let's see. I don't know. What was it? It oscillated.
Mm,
I was in my early years, I was very good in arts.
mm,
My pictures used to be like posted, like it would be my teacher would set my artwork aside and put it in a prominent place where everybody else is like, scattered in different areas, but mine was like really prominent. My friends would actually take my artwork home. And think when I was in grade 3 or 4, I decided that, you know what, I would be more successful financially if I was into math. I think that's what my mom had like drilled down to me, like focus on math, don't think about arts. And so I focused on art, mathematics, and I lost my artistic side.
oh, wow.
You can switch. I know, I switched.
Perhaps you can rekindle that fire again.
I do once in a while. I do. Yeah.
So, what kind of art? Is it painting? Is it drawing? What is it exactly?
At that time, I was using a lot of pastel. That was probably
Okay.
what they had in school. But I just take whatever instructions the teacher take and just spin it. You know, instead of I think there was one exercise. Pretend you're in the basement. Like here in Canada, we all have basements. Um, not the case in San Diego. They don't have basements here in San Diego. You have basements, and imagine you're like looking out your basement window. You just can only see feet. Just draw a picture of feet, and I'll be like drawing a picture of like ballerina feet dancing
Oh,
with
wow.
flowers floating. That was like I would take the assignment and just twist it around.
Beautiful. Wow. That's awesome. Now, so I guess so between these two, which was your favorite subject in school? Math or
At
arts?
that time, it was arts, and then math was much later.
Mhm.
I developed an analytical mind, and so I love problem solving now.
Mhm. Yeah, this is what life is about, solving problems. Business life, it's all about solving problems.
Mhm.
And what was the one subject you could not stand at all in school?
Anything that with memories, like
History.
biology
Oh yeah.
and
Oh, tell me about it.
history, all those dates and names that
Did you enjoy dissecting the poor frog? I didn't. I
we
skipped those
dissect.
classes.
We actually dissected a pig fetus in biology class.
A
Oh my
what?
gosh, a pig fetus.
Oh, wow, that's gross.
Yes, that was the smell got to me really bad.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
the smell.
Oh, wow. All right, let's move on. So, what would you say was your very first job?
Hmm. My first job was definitely in high school. I was at a pizza place, at a food court in a shopping center.
Mm, all right. All right. Now, let's talk about your path.
Mhm.
Um, how would you describe your path? Would you say it was pretty much straightforward the moment you left school? It was one lane, smooth sailing? Was it like turns and twists and roller coaster all along from the moment you left school to now?
Um, it wasn't predictable. I always thought that I would never ever be a stay-at-home mom. I just in high school, I didn't see the point of staying at home with the kids. Um, so I guess it's actually pretty smooth sailing consider, I worked in my job and eventually I became a stay-at-home mom and live on my husband's income, which we did pretty well on one income. That's because I also negotiate a lot of his contracts.
Oh, so you're a negotiator. Okay.
So I didn't know how well I did, and I didn't know how good I was in negotiation until I moved here and I started realizing how other people live. And I'm like,
Mm,
wow, we did well. We're doing well.
that's awesome. Wow. Now, there's, I'm sure you heard the saying that says, change your story, change your life. And by story, I mean what you keep on telling ourselves on a daily basis inside our mind. So when you had to change your story to either bring your life to where you want it to be or where to change your life, how did you do it? Did you do it to help of friends, family, mentors, books, videos? So tell us the process you used to change your story to change your life.
Mm, I think when I was 9 years old, I really understood what poverty was because we were refugees
Mhm.
from Cambodia. So we didn't, my mom and her husband didn't really speak English. So they got like remedial jobs like cleaning, um, working in restaurants, cleaning like bathrooms and stuff like that. And it was when I was 9 years old when the poverty really hit me. And I remember one moment where I said to my mom and my stepfather, I want to play the clarinet. Um, and they were very determined to get me my clarinet because it was part of the school program, music program. So we went to the store, music store, and the cost was $350. And I could hear my stepfather's voice sink like that. That just that how that $350 was a hard swallow. And so as a 9 year old, I really took on the financial burden of my family. And I basically told my stepfather I didn't want to play it after all. So he was off the hook. He was very determined to buy me that clarinet. And at that point in my life, I said, I'm never going to live like this. I don't want to be limited by choice. That's one of the things I feel sad is when I hear kids say, I don't want a toy. I want to put this money towards buying a home. That is one of the saddest things I hear. Um, and I decided to myself, yeah, I'm never going to be limited by choice again. And since then, I've always like imagined what kind of how I was going to live, what kind of husband I was going to marry, how many kids I'm going to have. I was very strategic.
So you planned everything
Really,
ahead.
that's the same time as when I decided to like focus on math and,
Mhm.
and throw away the
Would you say
artistic
that
side.
was the moment that made the switch in your mind to focus from what your heart wanted was being artistic to something more practical and focusing more on math?
Mm-hmm. I wanted the financial freedom because
Mhm.
I knew the struggle my family had.
That's a great thing to realize at nine. And usually we're too young to understand most things, but for you to understand that at that young age, that was phenomenal. Wow,
Mhm.
that's awesome. Now, let's get back to your path. So, what happened to that job interview in the tropics? Did you get the
Mhm.
job?
I did. It was so it it went. I just knew that I answered everything really well, and I got my job work. I got my employment 3 months before I graduated. So
Wow.
yeah, it was that was the beginning of my career, and I was so spoiled in that job.
What did you study to get that job? What was that job, and what did you study to get it?
I studied computer science and mathematics.
Okay.
So
What was the position?
I was a database analyst. So what I did was study data, work with financial analysts who actually does the trades, and we work together
Mm.
and really figure out what's going to happen next. So really know spot the trends across all the stock markets. So they would trade, the system would trade 24/7. And my job was to make sure the data is correct, change it according to what I need to do, and really figure out what's going to happen next.
How long did you stay at that position, at that company?
Just over a year, and then I got a better gig as a computer consultant, and this time was to program robots.
Wow.
So these cell phones have these things called microchips, and the factory to create this cost hundreds of millions of dollars. There's tools all
Yeah.
lined up in a huge factory, and each tool is about $5 to $10 million each. And so I would program one tool, and because the chips in these phones are just so complex.
Wow. And that other better job, was it also in the Bahamas, or was that back in Canada?
It was actually in the States.
Okay, wow. So how did you feel? How did you feel back at the time to living this heavenly surroundings of being in the tropics and the Bahamas, to go back to a more, normal life in a normal city?
Well, for somebody in my 20s, I didn't appreciate um, the quietness. There's something about island life.
Oh
It's
yes.
very slow. And somebody who's like into go, 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 gung ho, I did not appreciate it. But now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, that's really nice. That's serene.
Yes, yes, yes. So was it easy for you or tough for you to readjust to a normal, less slow, less relaxed lifestyle back in a urban center?
um, no, you mean when I moved to the States when I was consulting?
Yeah, where in the States did that job take you? From the Bahamas to back to the
To
States?
Portland, Oregon, to
Okay.
Texas, no, Plano, Texas. Um, and then we got married, and I decided to not work.
Okay. Okay. And then you mentioned at the introduction that you also lived in India. So what took you to India? Was it your job or just
Well, it
travel?
has started with I was pregnant with my youngest child. I had my kids really close together, like they're only 2 years apart.
Hmm.
I was pregnant with my youngest child, and I was like really, really bored. For some reason, the messages that my husband was communicating with his coworkers, and his messages would come into the house, and I was reading those messages. And they
Wow.
were, I don't know why. He knows the story. I told him, and one day I said, "Hey, don't they need a manager in India?" And so 3 months later, we were doing the paperwork. From the time I said, "Don't they need a manager in India?" to the time the VP said, "Okay, we approve your move," was 3 months. And then
Wow.
I said, "Oh, well, I need to have 3 months because I I want my child, my youngest one, to be at least 3 months before we moved to India." So they had to wait an extra 3 months. So the whole process only took 6 months.
Wow. So you manifested this position, eh? Almost.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long did you stay in India?
2 years.
Which city?
Bangalore.
How was it living and working in India?
Wow. But I have to say the first year was hell. It was hell.
Yes.
Um,
Why?
it's
Why minute to hell?
it was a sensory overload.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about you, but I always fall into this trap when I move to a new country is these people are crazy.
Yes, always, always.
Yeah, it's like they function so differently. The way they carry their lives are so differently from what I think. And I guess this is very egocentric of me, but I'm like, my way is better.
Yes, we all do
And it
that.
doesn't work. It does not work.
Yeah.
And it takes about a year to adjust.
Yes.
And but then after that 1 year, it's like heavenly because you figure it out and you're like, okay, I'm
Make
ready to live.
friends and all that. Yeah,
Yeah, you make friends, you actually know how to work the system, and you're like, okay, there's some order into the madness.
they learn the heart of haggling and all that. Eh?
I never learned to haggle very well.
Oh,
I My driver haggled for us,
okay.
But that's only because then that means he has more money to get from us.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So were you working there while you were in India? Or you were just taking care of the kids?
I was taking care of kids. However, it opened my eyes to a new world called
Mm,
expat
yes.
um, negotiation.
Oh,
So I got really good at negotiating, and I help people, expats who move to other countries, to negotiate their salaries. And I throw terms like hardship compensation, spousal support, um, you name it. There are so many ways to get companies to pay for expenses, but those windows have closed, unfortunately.
yeah. At least for now. They're gonna probably resume once the world is, and I can feel it around us. The tide is turning, so it's positive, looking good. Now, in India, did you learn to speak any Hindi?
Now,
All right.
unfortunately,
Did you get into
uh,
Indian movies or Bollywood?
you know, everybody spoke English to us, and
Mhm.
what that's the thing about a lot of major countries in the world, like major cities in the world, have speak English,
Sure.
except for France, but that's another story.
Oh, I know. I hear you. France. Oh, yeah. And China. You know,
Okay.
I lived in
Uh,
China for 4 years. It was a different story. Yes. But that's for
um,
another day. Yes.
yes.
So, wow. And after India, did you guys go to another country or back to the US or Canada or?
We moved back to the US. And then we decided that we're not going to move to any other country because our kids are in school. So we
Mhm.
moved back just in time for our oldest to go to school.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah,
I see. But I do see you probably there will be some more traveling for you guys once the kids are older.
challenges. Oh,
No,
traveling.
traveling, yes.
Oh yes. It was so heartbreaking when we got an opportunity to move to Australia. Just
Oh,
a couple months after buying this house in San Diego, we're like,
oh
dang,
no. Well, you
because
can always sell it or rent it, if an
no,
opportunity
it's
comes.
the kids, it's the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Now you mentioned something. You said helping expats negotiating the contract. Is that something that you've turned into a business yourself, consulting?
No, no, I don't. I actually not even just expats or anybody. I help people negotiate their salaries.
Mhm.
It is something I really enjoy. If anybody who's moving around to a new world is got a new job anywhere, usually there's always room for negotiation.
Sure.
And so I typically you can get about 10% raise um, because I know like what happens is people's salaries are within a range and you can and the way the HR works is they like to have you on the lower end of the range so they can every year they can raise your salary. It just makes the employee happier. Why might as well not go through the range and get your high end salary range from the start. So that's how I help people. Not as a, I do that just for friends because I find so much joy in that.
So when it comes to negotiating a salary for someone that's going to be sent abroad, of course, that's a difficult question to answer, but from your experience, do you think that depending on which country the person is sent, for example, if the cost of living is significantly lower, for example, if you sent from Canada, US to say a place like India or whatever, Thailand, for example, just for example's sake, where the cost of living is significantly lower, is that going to also affect your salary or the salary is going to pretty much remain the same because they understand that, hey, $100,000 in US, Canada is not the same thing, $100,000 in Thailand or India. You will be living like a royalty back there with that kind of money. Whereas in the US and Canada, you might be just above middle class. So is that taken into consideration or no?
It is okay. So if you're an American citizen or a Canadian
Mm,
citizen, you cannot buy a home in India. You just can't.
sure, of course. Yeah, yeah.
And so you are a foreigner. And so the company is supposed to, it will keep your salary. If the company's moving you, if you're already working and they want you to have an assignment, it's called an assignment. People in the military think we're in the military,
Sure.
but it's not. We have an assignment with a company, say it's a contractor for a year or two. I could recommend not shorter than 2 years, because it takes about 2 years to adjust and truly enjoy. We talked about a year is kind of challenging. And so want to make sure you go through the hump and enjoy it. So what happens is when you are relocating within a company is you maintain the same salary. But then you ask for support, because sometimes you actually might have to, like for India, the spouse can't get a job. Cannot get a job. So say for me,
Wow.
when my husband went to India to work, I can't get a job. And so there's something called spousal support. So that you ask the company to pay for, and it all depends from company to company. It all depends. But you can always ask for spousal support to compensate for the lost income. Another one is support for, hey, in countries in India, it is nearly impossible for foreigners to drive. The driving pattern is chaotic. They don't follow the lanes. They might even go like a car. Our driver has driven our car going the wrong way in a 4-lane highway. My car driver has parked our vehicle in the middle of the highway. It's not a highway, but in the middle of the road, a 4-lane road, like 4-lane one way, 4-lane another. And he's like, parks and waves his hand, like, come over and like, I'm like, no, I cannot cross 4 lanes to the car that you parked in the middle of.
Yeah, wow.
So you have you just need to, I can't drive, so you have to hire a driver.
Yeah.
Of course, you need to have a car, because riding those rickshaws the fume just goes right into your face.
Oh yeah.
So, the locals can adjust, but for me, I couldn't. So
Of course.
there are a lot of ways to negotiate, and it's very common. If you're done right, you can get a second home within 2 years.
Wow, beautiful. Honestly, Mieu, this could be, at the very least, this would be as really worth at least a book. Living as an expat, and even 2 books, I would say. One, what's like to live, even 3 books, sorry. 1, your story. 2, what it's like to be a spouse of an expat. And 3, what it's like living in India, and all that. So, and a 4th one, I would say, you have so many books in you. 4th one would be, hey, how to negotiate the best contract for you for your next assignment abroad. Seriously, that could be something amazing. There's a lot of people that would pay for that, would be very interested into that.
Oh, yeah, it's also, yes, it's true. Even just moving across the country, there's always room for negotiation.
Sure. Yeah.
From city to
Absolutely.
city, cost of living adjustments are different. Sometimes you have to register your car. That's included. The real estate fees if you buy and sell a home. It costs about $100,000 to move across country, and
Sure.
people don't actually negotiate that, and so that's something to consideration. But yeah.
Absolutely. Now, if you want, I can connect you with a good friend of mine. She's a publisher. She can talk to you about anything book related. If you want, I would be very happy to connect you with her after this call.
Not yet. I do plan to write a book, but not right now. But thank you for the offer.
Very welcome. But seriously, you have quite a few. There's a saying, we all have a book in us, but for you have quite a few books. All right, now let's move forward. Tell us about your business. Tell us about the impact you're having in the world right now.
The impact I have right now is really helping heart-centered entrepreneurs to really understand their market much better by growing their Facebook group and using their members for market research. The great thing about being online is responses are instant.
Wow, yeah.
And the end result is to craft a high-end customer journey where you actually walk through a series of, have that sense of like your clients being taken care of. I think they just, where they know what they're going to get at the end of the journey. And for example, for me as somebody who's an online coach, I have found that a lot of people on social media don't understand social media because they don't understand the tech part. And you don't know how many people I've met who've sunk thousands and tens of thousands of dollars down the toilet because they don't understand the tech side of social media. And I not only teach them, and I fill that gap. I fill that gap of the tech side so they can implement the strategies they've learned, and also give them my own strategies as well.
Awesome. Tell us more about that. What kind of techs are you talking about, and what kind of platforms and on social media are you focusing on?
Well, right now I'm focusing on helping people build a Facebook group. However,
Okay.
I get them outside of us Facebook groups through other platforms called Meetup and Eventbrite, where people come in through a workshop. And then I teach them, hey, what the concept of an organic funnel. And just before I got onto this call, I was talking to a woman about, hey, let's do a tripwire funnel where with a low end offer, that is a warm lead. And then you can decide to have on a consult, or you can give them another high end product. And then, you get to decide what works for the clients. She gets to decide what works for her client is how do you move her audience. She has a tremendous large Facebook group of 19,000 women. I think it's all women. And just figure out what her high-end offer is and how to navigate people through her high-end offer. So we were working on that this morning, just before.
Beautiful. Wow. So for your business, what would you say is your ideal client? Do you work strictly with women or men and women? And do you focus on a specific industry or niche, or?
I don't have a specific industry. I focus with, I think the best results I get are entrepreneurs who've been experienced, who've been in it for a while. So I either have people who have been in traditional route networking, doing the traditional way where it's one-on-one, and I move them online, which they need a lot more hand-holding when it comes to tech. They need to, how to use the tech, understand how to use a funnel, and know how to build their group, their community. Or other people where they just need 6 sessions because they are already online and they just need to hone down their messaging.
Awesome.
But usually they're more experienced entrepreneurs.
Okay. Tell us about the structure of your program. Do you have like a one-on-one coaching, small groups, videos, courses? And what is the time frame it takes? Is it like 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year? Tell us all the details about your program.
Yeah, there's 2 types of programs. One is one-on-one, and those are just people, entrepreneurs, who've been online for a while and just need to hone down their messaging. So it could be just anywhere from 4 to 6 sessions. That's it. They're so close to understanding the organic reach. They've already learned a lot of skills, and they've already had success in clients. They just want to get to 7 figures. That's just 4 to 6 sessions. There's other entrepreneurs who've been around, but they haven't been online. And that's an 8 months program, group program.
Okay. How are you getting your clients?
Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Are you running any ads or just organic growth, referrals?
Organic reach.
Okay. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, share with us an example of the most remarkable transformation you've seen from one of your clients so far in your business.
Well, when I'm doing the 4 to 6 sessions, usually the transformation isn't huge right away because they're just trying to implement the things. I love interviewing my past clients, maybe a year or 2 later. One big transformation is he's actually I know he doesn't call it MLM, but I think I'm going to call it MLM because we know what that is. He really focused on his niche. We'd honed down his messaging, and him and his team did such a good job in marketing that he is now marketing executive of a $3.4 billion company.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, just a year, I remember coaching him on one-on-one. He'll say, I got a promotion. I'm like, oh, congratulations. I didn't understand what it was. And then I talked to him a year later and I'm like, yeah, I'm an executive. No, marketing executive. I'm like, wow.
That's amazing. Wow, awesome. Now, let's change gears. Let's talk about cause and impact. This is the main focus and theme of this podcast, building businesses with a purpose and a cause. What would you say is a cause that you, Mieu, are very passionate about?
Oh, I'm passionate about people believing in themselves and in the world. I think my own story where we struggled financially. I want kids to live free and not take the burdens of their parents, because you're only kid once. And I want them to run around and be joyful. So for me to help these kids, I'd like to help the parents
Yes,
to gain financial freedom.
that is for sure. Love that. Now, there's so much more that we can cover, but we might have to do a part 2 in a few months. But for now, let's start wrapping things up. To finish off, I'd like to ask you a series of rapid fire questions on advices. Ready?
Okay.
What is so far the best piece of advice you've received?
If you don't know how to do it, find somebody else.
Love that. What is the worst piece of advice you've received so far?
If you haven't figured it out now, don't do it.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Now, imagine that you were blessed with a time machine and you can go back in time and sit face to face with an 18-year-old Mieu. What is the number one advice you would give to her knowing all that you know now?
18-year-old Mieu? 18-year-old me. The only advice would say, you're on the right path. That's the only.
Keep going. Yeah. Awesome.
Keep going.
All right. So I understand you don't have your podcast, but imagine if you had your podcast today and you were interviewing the most special person in the world, which is yourself. So you're interviewing yourself. What is the first question you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. What is the first question that comes to your mind?
Okay, it's hard not to think of it.
Yeah.
I'm a very analytical person. What question was, this is in the future?
Well, imagine that it's today you're interviewing yourself on your own podcast.
Oh, shoot, that's a tough one. I am so stumped with that question. I would say, what would light you up? What makes you wake up with joy?
And a short answer, what would be your answer right now?
I would say gratitude. I think I have an amazing support system. I have a few friends where I just can pour my heart out and know that they're not going to judge me, and they'll be like, okay, I'm going to listen to you and we're going to get through this together.
Awesome. Wonderful. Now, my favorite question to ask, and one of the last question I'll ask you is, what is the smallest thing you've done that has had the greatest positive impact in both your life and your business? For me, it's been starting this podcast. What about you?
Ooh.
And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing you've done that has had the biggest impact.
Oh, when I realized that we're all equal, even if they have a title of like CEO or executives, there's just still people.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that, would you also add the fact that you're understanding at a younger age the importance of making the right choice and you start focusing on math as opposed to art, and that had a tremendous impact in your life?
Yes. I think there's something to be said about financial
Mm-hmm.
freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't bring happiness for sure.
Mm-hmm.
However, it does help tremendously.
Yeah. What was it? There was a saying that says, well, money doesn't buy happiness, but at least you can go to your problems in a limousine as opposed to on a bicycle. You know what I mean?
I never heard of it that way, but I understand the concept.
Something along those lines. I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it's similar to that, you know?
Yes, yes.
All right, cool. Now, one question for me that I want to ask you, and I want you to be very honest. What tips and advices do you have for me to improve my podcast?
Mm,
Don't try to be nice. Just give it up. Tell me straight up.
mm, maybe more Zen. I don't know. I don't know.
More what? Sorry.
Zen. I think you're tired right now.
All right, now maybe yes. Just
That's all I can think of right
long
now.
day.
It's like you
All
seem
right.
tired. So that's
Okay.
all.
Good. Thank you. Now, what's the best way to connect with you if someone wants to reach out to you?
The best way to connect with me is my email address. So it's Mieu at mieufancoaching.com. So Mieu is spelled M as in Mary, I as in Ingrid, E as in English, U as in uncle, at Mieu Phan. So Phan is P as in Peter, H as in Henry, A as in Andrew, N as in Nancy, coaching.com. So Mieu at mieufancoaching.com.
And your website is mewfancoaching.com.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Awesome. I'll put that in the show notes. So listen, Mew, it's been a blast talking to you. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence. I salute you. A cheerleader with a heart. We'll definitely stay in touch and keep in touch. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Have a wonderful day ahead of you. Take care.
Thank you so much for your time.
Very welcome. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.